Welcome viewers to Historical Journeys. Intricacy situated on the pleasant southern shore of Ireland, only 15 miles southeast of Plug, is saturated with history that traces all the way back to the Middle Age period. The Christian people group there initially venerated in a congregation committed to Bridget of Kildare, perhaps of Ireland's most loved holy person. This early church, an image of the Wards' well-established Christian legacy, in the end succumbed to the desolates of time and weather conditions, decaying into a simple shadow of its previous self. Over the course of the years, as the structure disintegrated and capitulated to the components, it changed from a position of love into a strong ruin, repeating the progression of time and the changing fortunes of the local area. At once served sheep rushing in a congregation yard unearthed dull, exceptionally old relics. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It only takes a second, and you won't miss any of our future videos. Let's get started. In 1779, the Congregation of Ireland perceived the requirement for another congregation and constructed a new and well-known church devoted to Street for over a really long period. The new church will remain as a noticeable milestone over the close-by town of Crosshaven, drawing in admirers from across the area. Its development opened another part throughout the entire existence of the ward and gave a profound home to the nearby local area. In 1866, the foundation of this brand new structure was laid. This was a move that undeniable the downfall of St. Matthew's congregation. The development of the Congregation of the Sacred Trinity mirrors the requirements of the developing local area in light of the developing populace and the expansion in the quantity of guests. When his congregation first arrived at the brand new Church of the Holy Trinity Street, however, Hurricane Ophelia struck Ireland in October 2017 and caused extensive damage all along the coast, including along the coast. This natural disaster marked a turning point for the St. Matthew's Church, which was already in disrepair and needed urgent conservation work. The obliteration brought about by Storm Ophelia prodded a gathering of committed volunteers right into it. A significant initial step for bunch individuals and volunteers is to present a legacy guarantee to Stopper District Board to look for certification and backing for preservation work. Following the effective raising money, the gathering got further monetary help from the Public Authority of Ireland, giving the materials expected to revamp St. Matthew's congregation. This help addresses a significant achievement in the congregation's excursion. We trust that this verifiable fortune can be protected for people in the future to appreciate. The management of the desecrated cemetery in the area of St. Matthew's Church is one of the Freedom Temple volunteers' greatest challenges. Activists had to remove a lot of vegetation while also restoring social space without destroying the old landmark. This was a huge challenge. The issue isn't simply active work, and when the dynamic group examined the issue, Stopper District Chief Audrey Buckley reviewed her experience during a visit to Ridges in 2019. During his excursion, he saw another way utilized by rustic individuals. There is a larger cemetery in operation. Individuals there use creatures as a characteristic and successful method for safeguarding plants. He was surprised to see the sheep paying attention to the trees as they walked through the pasture. Along these lines, the land seems to be a very much kept cover, and the sheep take great consideration of the homestead. The revelation drove Buckley to contemplate whether this strategy could be utilized in a tough spot like this. An old, disregarded church remains in a bigger region. In Ridges, Buckley saw that sheep and goats not just aided in significant places like graveyards, yet in addition tracked down strolling trails close by. Be that as it may, the inquiry is whether this approach would be more compelling in Ireland's mind-boggling and novel regular habitat. Considering what is happening, Buckley trusts that utilizing creatures to oversee backwoods is a less complex and less requesting technique than utilizing power devices and other conventional instruments. In light of this, persevering individuals chose to attempt a plant security technique by welcoming goats to eat at the burial ground. He thought that because of the scheme's significance, his goats would be grazed to preserve the vegetation and prevent damage to the ancient and fragile cemetery. In May 2020, Harris and Oscar were brought to the mind-boggling, denoting the start of their critical commitments to the recuperation exertion. They sustained the congested graveyard and had the chance to uncover gravestones that had been concealed for quite a while and assist volunteers with the reclamation work at the site. Together, Harris and Oscar have turned into a significant piece of society's endeavors to reconnect with the past, showing the significant job that creatures can play in projects. Projects for historical and conservation. The appearance of the goats truly caught the hearts of the neighborhood local area, and Harris and Oscar became nearby superstars, much to the pleasure and maybe worry of the trackers. Before all else, there were just two goats, Harris and Oscar, who had additional opportunity to unwind and appreciate delectable food. For example, apples presented by the occupants in the field. Even though it temporarily halted the goats' goal of gradually removing the graves that had grown in Tumu Libertad, Noradobara in Tawai, and Hungarian Hill, this unexpected issue demonstrated the enthusiasm and participation of the community in the project. Yet, when they got their independence from Trump, they joined Harris and Oscar and kept on working. Because of their craving and appetite, these wild goats assume a significant part in finding tragically missing entombment destinations and exhibiting the viability of utilizing regular techniques to re-establish such locales. The council says that the goats won't be able to graze in the cemetery until autumn because they have to go back to Castletown Bell during the rut. The 2-acre cemetery presented a significant obstacle due to the goats' limited time. Clean a huge region. This time added to the speed of their work on the grounds that the workers needed to completely debilitate their territory privileges prior to leaving. At the point when the goats returned, the greater part of the graveyards were as yet congested with plants. Together, these plants exhume stowed-away graves, which likewise help in recuperation endeavors. Grower and human workers started cooperating to create a lot of salt. The process of cleaning each grave and talking about the lives of those buried there provided a sense of connection to the past and an appreciation of the history housed in the cemetery. The initiative led to the successful discovery of nearly 500 tombstones in the San Mateo Parish Cemetery. Most of them, about 80%, are cataloged and registered in the digital database of historical graves. The volunteer carefully examined each monument, gathered the stories and history of the people who once lived in this place, and created a rich picture of the past of the churches. Fortunately, in his interview with the BBC, he emphasized the wider aim of the project to reconnect the community with its forgotten history and ancestors. It was about reconnecting with the past while bringing the community together, a demonstration of the getting through legacy and profundity of local area history that originates before the ongoing church structure. The grave of Maria Kate Russell, a young girl who died at the age of 2.5, was one of many discoveries made in the cemetery. The engraving on his gravestone uncovered a contacting story. That find, in the same way as others in the burial ground, proposed the individual misfortunes and accounts of misfortune that were essential for the texture of life and verifiable importance for celebrities, and featured the human component of the reclamation project. A group of artists recently discovered a descendant of Mary Kate Russell, making a surprising connection between the church and the girl's tombstones in Street Matthews. Audrey Buckley said that the group had a big job to find out what happened to the little girl, and their efforts led them to Maria's niece, who now lives in Southampton. The revelation and ensuing contact with living family members added an individual aspect to the recuperation interaction. This association overcomes any barrier between the past and the present, giving an open door to the niece to interface with her family ancestry. Ideally, when he visits the site, and the craftsman attempting to uncover the story behind the burial chamber, the venture will very invigorate. Notwithstanding the cooperation in Matatini, 3 living family members of those covered in the as-of-late found graves have been found. In the early hundreds of years, numerous families couldn't bear the cost of normal graves, and it was hard to tell who was covered under them. These enormous stones fill a pragmatic need, yet additionally address the monetary commitments of the departed's loved ones. Buckley's discoveries show the distinction between graves with stones and graves set apart with stones alone, reflecting social class contrasts inside the local area. The volunteers felt a strong sense of connection to the past and the people who had lived and died in the area as a result of the discovery of these massive grave markers. The revelation of the grave, which was found by a crowd of creatures and cleaned by trackers, was the principal thing that occurred nearby. Recuperation Program in Street Matthews joined a center group of 12 workers who dealt with the rubble to uncover the long covered-up graves. Notwithstanding, this task has spread to the more extensive local area, and numerous neighborhood individuals are involved. Luckily, Sheep Changing Night has turned into a public occasion for family and onlookers who can assist when required. This helpful soul was a vital figure in the progress of the program, which laid out solidarity and normal reason locally. Trump Freedom's utilization of sheep and goats was a viable and harmless to the ecosystem approach that was great for the undertaking. The task's prosperity and special methodology grabbed the eye of Tassie Edge, an Irish occupant who visited the big name in September 2021. Only a couple of months before the visit, the workers got a huge award of roughly $15,000, which will be utilized for additional reclamation work at the graveyard. The future job of domesticated animals in continuous rebuilding projects at the perplexing remaining parts a fascinating subject. The sheep and goats resigned from brushing in September 2021. However, there was still a lot of work to be finished. Given the outcome of involving creatures for undergrowth the board and their ubiquity in neighborhood networks, almost certainly they will be utilized in the future. In addition to the fact that the creatures demonstrated to be compelling in their job, they have turned into a well-known piece of the undertaking, making them bound to return and a welcome and open door to vent. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay updated with our latest videos, subscribing is the way to go. Just click that red button below and become a part of our channel family.